As I coach communicators, one of the most common things that I'm asked is, how do you remember all the elements of your speech? Like the details and the stories. How do you remember those and not forget your lines? And I honestly tell people, just be yourself. So here's a challenge that we find, and it permeates just about every entrepreneurial business. You hear phrases like, well, just fake it until you make it, or, faith it until you make it, or be yourself. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be real. But then I see people whose authenticity is fake. And by what I mean by that is you see their presentations, and I'll make that a speech, a book, a video, any kind of outward expression of who they are. It may even be their Facebook, their LinkedIn profile, their tweets. And these are a representation of what you expect that person to be. And then you meet them and you realize that's a persona they've created. It's a character. In fact, competitors of mine who teach people public speaking, and there are billions now, because the idea that story works in persuasion seems to be a new fad. It's been around for a long, long time. In fact, what we call prehistoric means that it is true history before we started writing things down. Was all done by story. It was all word of mouth. I lived this, I'm telling you about it. This is what I witnessed, I'm telling you about it. And that's part of the reason that some of the ancient texts and ancient documents say if 2 or 3 people testify to the same thing, that they saw the same thing, that they witnessed the same event, that their experience was the same in that moment, then you can believe that's true. Otherwise, any one of them could have been making it up. We know that the psychology of humans today that we've studied over the last several decades will tell you that if there's an intersection and there's 5 people on this side and 5 people on this side and an accident in the middle, that you're not going to get these 5 stories and these 5 stories to perfectly collaborate. In fact, you'll probably get 20 different stories out of the 10 people who are eyewitnesses. If there are 5 eyewitnesses, you'll probably have 10 stories. If there are 3 eyewitnesses, you'll have 6 stories. And it just seems to work that way because our recollection isn't always clear. Part of that has to do with the fact that what we perceive and what really happened are different. Part of it has to do with the fact that we superimpose our own life experiences over the top of what we witness. Let me demonstrate that for you. Have you ever said something to a friend and then had your friend respond with a great offense? They're like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. And you're like, said what? And when you repeat what you said, they say, oh, that's not what I heard. I thought you said. There are a lot of people who carry baggage through life who pour that baggage over anything that you offer them. Their preconceived notions, their past hurts, their experiences in life are superimposed on anything that you try to say or teach to them or share with them. And the result of that is great pain when they hear what you have to say, especially if it's a truth that runs counter to their own experiences and their own life. They don't want to hear what makes them uncomfortable. And no one wants to hear what leads them to understand that what I've believed all along was wrong. Now, when we lay those two things together, the idea that story is extremely persuasive and that everyone comes to hear that story with their own baggage and background, we put those two things together, what we realize is that the more real and authentic we are in our own experiences laying our story out there, the more readily it resonates in truth. What's hard, and this is what a lot of motivational speakers have gone to, and a lot of speaking coaches have gone to, and a lot of leadership trainers have gone to, is fabricating a story in such a way that it's really more of an anecdote. It's meant to teach a point, but they didn't really live it. And here's the result of that. It's not the facts of the story that sell. Do you hear me? Facts tell, stories sell. Why? Because stories that are real, that come from your own life experiences, bring forward with them real emotion, real experiences. There's a resonance when you've lived through something that other people go, I've lived through that too. Now, I teach a very powerful thing, and I want to give you this one little freebie today. I teach a very powerful thing called an avatar window. And that is where you look at the resonant emotion, you strip away the actual event itself from your story, only in your mind and only for a moment, long enough to say, who else might have felt exactly this same way? And then you kind of reach through your story and identify them for themselves. You might have felt like this if. You might have felt like this when. You might understand this feeling because you've experienced this. And by pulling them through that window with their experience, with their emotions, their ability to look at your experience, your story, and go, I don't get it, is eliminated. Now, that's my own teaching technique. It's an application that I use when I write speeches, when I compile stories to create a presentation. I've had many coaching clients in the past ask me, can you help me write a speech that sells? And generally I will fire them and give their money back, because I don't write speeches that sell. I write a composition of life experiences that transform other people. Are those sellable? Absolutely. Do they have great value? Absolutely. Will they draw tens of thousands of dollars from the stage? Absolutely. But if your agenda is to write a speech that sells, you're much more in the fake it until you make it category than you are living an authentic life. In my opinion, the worst is the person who tries to live an authentic life by writing what sounds like, living what sounds like, social mediaizing themselves into what sounds like an authentic story that has nothing to do with who they are or the past that they've come from. I've heard people tell their pain to triumph story. And you can poke holes on it in several ways. In fact, I've heard people tell their pain to triumph story and realized it was someone else's story. I've heard it before. And not just a similar story. Not just that their path and this other person's path were very much alike, but that facts and details were the same. I've also heard people express a story, and as they say it, they'll say it in such a way that they over-dramatize, like actors in a screenplay, an emphasis in the story that even with its greatest emphasis, even with its greatest enunciation, even with its greatest word pictures, has no emotional resonance with the audience and the crowd. It's great acting. It might even be great storytelling per se, but to draw people in because you feel what they felt, or you have felt what they feel right now, that's the connection level that goes to the next level, and you can't fake that. You can't. I've never lost a close loved one to suicide. My wife has. I love her. I adore her. I want to stand beside her. I can't feel what she feels. I never have. I can look for similarities. I can look for the relationships that I've had with friends who have lost their life to their own actions or their own choice. But it's not the same. And that's a hard thing to fake. But people do it. People fake their success. They live a life that's not true in order to impress people they don't care about, to gain ground that they cannot recover. It's a fascinating process, if you ask me, the way and the nature with which people go through creating a facade and then trying to live up under it. Now, I've read The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. In fact, aside from the Bible, I credit it as probably one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. Mainly because it was oversimplified. It was stupid proof for an idiot like me to be able to comprehend it. I could read it and get it. It wasn't pedantic. It wasn't overeducated. It wasn't ethereal. It was down to earth and practical. Now, some of the stories Jack told in that book were his own stories, and some of the stories were stories of other people, which has been the master of his craft. Look at the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Chicken Soup for the Teacher's Soul, for the Taxi Cab Driver's Soul, for the Chef's Soul. Those books are collections of stories that resonate with the hearts of people, that deliver hope because they have experienced what you have experienced or are experiencing, and that's where the resonance is. And I remember in Jack Canfield's book that he talked about the first time he bought a $65 shirt and how it felt like nothing he'd ever worn in his life, and how he had to be encouraged to buy that shirt because he was actually broke at the time that he bought it. But the way that it looked and the way that it felt changed how he felt about himself. I'm going to tell you from my own experience. I used to work at jobs.com. When jobs.com was a .com startup and the .com boom, and everything in the world was .com. And everybody in .com had a different mindset. They had a new way of doing things. They realized they could make money without being impressive. And it was only the sales reps who were national sales reps who were going face to face with big companies like Oracle and Google and Yahoo all over Silicon Valley who were expected to wear a coat and tie. In fact, in the office, we went from a business casual environment, no exaggeration. I had guys sitting in the cubicle next to me in their board shorts, flip-flops, and tank tops. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they're like, Norris, why do you always come in dressed up? Why do you have slacks on every single day? We wear shorts every day. We're comfortable. We're having a good time. And in the back of my head, I was thinking to myself, there might be something to the fact that you've never met your sales goal, not once. And I usually meet it within about 10 days. Part of it has to do with the way that I see myself. We used to tell sales reps on the phone all the time, when you're making a phone call, you know you're on the phone, you know they can't see your face, you know they can't read your body language, you could be all slouched back and just chilling with your feet up on the desk, and you may not know this. But your body language can be heard in your tone of voice to an astute listener. And trust me, it doesn't matter the kind of business that they run. If their mind is sharp enough and their human relation skills are sharp enough to be running and owning a business that you would be calling them to sell them something, odds are they can read your body language through your tone of voice over the phone. They know if you're distracted. They know if you're paying no attention to them. They know if you have your own agenda from the time the phone rings. They can hear if you're slouching or frowning or ignoring their emotional responses and just pounding away. I can't tell you how many times, even in recent weeks, that I've gotten phone calls from people who they listen to me just long enough to know that I'm a human on the other end of a phone and not an answering machine. And then they dive into their sales spiel and they're just like blah, 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 for 5 minutes. And if I'm compassionate enough, I guess, in that moment to listen to their 5-minute spiel, then they say, are you ready to pay with your credit card or would you like to pay by check? I'm like, I'm not ready to buy anything from you. You've told me all about your product. You've never asked me anything about me. There are many, many sales reps who fake it until they make it because they don't know how to do it any other way. They don't know what a real conversation sounds like, especially ones who have been raised with a smartphone in their hand. LOL and emoji doesn't close a deal. You need more relationship than that. You need to ask questions. You need to understand what their needs are. And this fake it or make it mentality of look the part, act the part. How many videos have we seen? Facebook posts have we seen? I'm just sitting on the beach and making millions. Look at my brand new Lamborghini. Look at my brand new 12 million square foot house. Look at my, and it's all the trappings of success. And yet they're still advertising on Facebook and asking you to give them money so they can continue their success. And somewhere along the way, they're going to teach you how to have that Lamborghini in that house. Now, trust me when I say, because I am one, we all need coaches. I have coaches. I have mentors in my life. I have people that I look up to. I have people that I slide everything that I do across their desk and go, what do you think? Give me some feedback on this newest idea. Give me some critique on what I'm working on right now. How can I grow to the next level in this arena? In every arena of my life, I have people who hold that space. Some spiritually and nothing else. Some financially and nothing else. Some relationally and nothing else. Some that are across the line in faith and race and background and history and income level. And I approach them and ask for their advice. I ask for their help. I ask for their insights to learn what I don't know now. We all need coaches. We all need mentors to push us further, to pull us further sometimes, because they're further up the road than we are. Jack Canfield has seen success on both sides of that, having followed in the footsteps of those who went before him and demonstrated how that worked. But he's also been the one to reach back for those who are just trying to figure out the challenges of their life and go, come here, let me show you something. Anthony Robbins is another perfect example. The first year that he decided he would feed young children, feed families for Thanksgiving, he fed 2. Now he's past the 1 million mark. Million. Operation Care feeds 20,000 every Christmas. Anthony Robbins and his 36 different companies and 1,200 different employees, they feed over 1 million. That's pretty successful moving forward. But what does he do? He reaches back to those who haven't yet made it and pulls them forward. That's an entirely different set of results and demonstration of success than a video that says, look at all the stuff that I have, you can have this stuff too. In fact, if you watch the trappings mentality in young people today, I've mentioned Jake Paul on here a couple of times. Jake Paul has done a series of videos, and there's a music video that he does where he's dancing around his Rolex, showing off his Rolex and dancing around his Lamborghini, and talks about how he bought one for his brother and blah, 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 blah. There's also someone who goes back to that video because he called him out in the video, a guy by the name of PewDiePie, and PewDiePie goes back and goes through the video and points out the errors and the flaws in it. There's also a time that in one of Jake Paul's own later videos, and I don't know why they didn't edit this out, but one of the young kids that he's on the Disney Channel with says to him straight up, I think it's funny that you have a Lamborghini in your video and you claim to have given one to your brother, but you had to rent them both. So your whole music video is about how successful you are, but the trappings that you're showing off you had to rent to display? That would be the definition of fake it till you make it. The video has now been seen over 10 million times. I guess it worked for him. It was a great illusionary sales pitch. But if you think following him or being like him is going to make you successful like him, you better be willing to lie about your success to get it. That's not authenticity. That's not real experience. That's not anything that you can follow. There are a lot of people who will tell you, I can make you a 6-figure coach or a 7-figure coach. I can make you a great public speaker. But when you watch them on the stage, they're not doing it. One of the mentors in my life is James Malinchak, one of the guys that I've paid attention to. And I'll tell you why I chose James Malinchak. And this would have been in the fall of 2010, around September, October. Because it was August of 2010 that my life really began to shift. And I felt like this is the direction that I was being called to go. It's been a 7-year journey, and it has been uphill. It has been times of great income and times of no income. Times that I look back on myself and go, if I just followed up on that, the whole path would have been completely different. If I just stuck with that instead of looking for the next shiny object, my life would have been completely different. I could have gone a lot further had I just done that. I look back 7 years now and I realize all that. But part of that journey started sitting at Gateway Church in South Lake, Texas, watching a video. And I had simply done a Google search or YouTube search to say, public speaking, how do you break into public speaking? And I watched a video of this guy that I thought was really obnoxious. But he had a great point, and he said in his video, he said, I went to a meeting where there were a lot of people who were who were professional speakers. And one of them did a demonstration and then asked for participation from the audience. And I went up there and I participated. And I was really looking to figure out how to break into the public speaking arena. And when I came off the stage, this lady approached me and said, wow, you've got a lot of potential. I could coach you to be a very successful speaking coach, to be a very successful speaker. And he said, well, okay, well, how many speeches have you given? She said, I don't give a lot of speeches. I'm a speaking coach. He said, oh, okay, well, who's somebody that you coached that I would know who's given a lot of speeches? She said, well, you probably wouldn't know most of the people that I've worked with. He said, okay, so how many people have you coached? She said, well, actually, I'm really just getting started, so only 4 or 5 at this point. He said, that was the moment that I backed up and I asked myself, why would I hire someone to teach me to do something that she's never done herself, doesn't have anyone who's a successful client, and hasn't really even served many clients doing it? Why would I hire them to teach me? He said, now what she didn't know about me is that I'd already been giving speeches in colleges and high school for over 3 years. I'd already given close to 1,000 speeches. I was just looking to go to the next level. So a coach who presumes that they can help you or make you better, even if it's just on a fine point, who's faking their own success in order to gain you as a client, is not a very powerful asset. And as a coach, I caution you against that. If you don't have the experience and the credentials to back it up, be cautious about how you do that. You know, I spent 5 years in the fire department. I've been through the Air Force Fire Academy. I've been on the fire ground. I've removed dead bodies from vehicles. I have rushed people to the hospital in the last moment in the nick of time. I have removed injured bodies from burning vehicles to prevent them from becoming dead bodies in vehicles. I've drug dummies out of houses. I've never actually fought a structure fire that we didn't set, other than a couple of small house fires, but there was nobody in them. But if I were going to say I want to start a fire academy, I would be beyond ill-equipped. Do I have experience in it? Yes. Do I have real life experience in it? Yes. Have I been in a burning building? Yes. Have I been inside a burning aircraft? Yes. Have I pulled bodies from a burning car? Yes. And it still doesn't make me qualified to run an Air Force Fire Academy or any other fire academy. Now, my buddy Mick Moffitt runs one of the greatest international fire training academies in the world, right here in Burleson, Texas. Mick Moffitt became a fireman because he was rescued from a burning building when he was just a boy. He spent his entire career as a firefighter, made it all the way up to chief, and now he runs one of the largest academies in the world. People from other countries send their firefighters here to be trained by him. And he does it all with a character base that is incredible. He's been asked to come to some of the largest training events that are outside of his academy because of the quality of what he teaches. That's a coach you want to follow. That's a mentor you want to follow. Those are tracks you want to step in if you want to be a part of that. I have 10 years background in marketing. I have a pretty good understanding of marketing. I have 10 years sales experience selling and teaching and training salespeople. I've got a pretty good background in that. I've been speaking since I was in the 2nd grade. And I have worked to master that craft, studying some of the best in the world. I'm glad to coach you in that arena. I am not the greatest seller of myself. You follow me? I don't sell myself much at all. If I do, I don't do it very well. How do I know? Because I don't have the cash flow to back it up. So if you're looking for a coach who can teach you how to get on 1,000 stages, don't ask me. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not doing it yet. Because my primary objective is transforming lives. If I can do that consistently, then I hope that the other results will follow. And I'm okay with that. But I know there are people who, having given 1 speech or 3 speeches at Toastmasters, feel like they're qualified to be your coach. I would put them in the category of faking it until they made it. They want to get someone to believe in them so that they can believe more in themselves. It's a dangerous place to be. faking it to be authentic is an absolutely frightening place to be, because what it says to me is either A, they're afraid of who they authentically are, or B, they'll lie to you about anything. I'm not excited about working with either one of those kind of people. If you're looking for a coach, you're looking for a mentor, or you're looking to become one, I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. Just be yourself. If the stories that you're telling, the anecdotes that you're using, the experience that you have is what you have lived through, it will come with an emotional resonance. It will come out of you with reality. You won't have to manufacture it. You won't have to dramatize it. It will be real. When you reiterate a story that made you cry when it happened, you're likely to cry when you tell it again. If you are trying to make people in the audience cry about a story that you never cried about, you're a liar. If you're trying to pull on emotional heartstrings from something you've never experienced, you're a manipulator. Don't do that. It's not necessary. There are things in your life that are real and authentic. It may scare the bejeebers out of you to share them in public. That might mean you're not ready. It might mean that story isn't for everybody. It needs to be told in a limited audience. That's okay. But if you want to be real, if you want to be authentic, if you want to be effective, if you want to be transformational, tell the stories that you've lived through. Understand what audience those are important for. And understand how your transformation can be systematically applied to someone else so that your solution from your pain to your progress works for everyone. I've said this before. I think it's probably one of the most powerful revelations I've ever had when it comes to coaching. The Rubrics Cube doesn't care who solves it. The Rubrics Cube doesn't care about your education level, doesn't care about your religion, doesn't care about your political views. The Rubik's Cube doesn't care about your race. The Rubik's Cube doesn't care about your sexual orientation, doesn't care about your age. The Rubik's Cube doesn't care who solves it. The solution for solving the Rubik's Cube can be applied by anyone, and that solution works every single time it's applied, no matter who applies it. That's foundational truth. There are other foundational truths in our life that when you apply them, it doesn't matter who you are. Walk off the top of a building. And unless you're wearing some kind of wingsuit or powered device to fly, you're going down. Not up, not sideways, not left, not right, not back, down. Why? Because gravity is a universal truth. Gravity is a law. Gravity is a solution that applies itself to everyone, everywhere, every time, anywhere on the globe. You have to leave this planet to escape gravity. And there are places on other planets where the gravity is actually greater than it is here. Do some homework. Those are solutions that work every time for everyone in every circumstance. Some of the stuff Anthony Robbins teaches about NLP and the way that the mind works and the way that the mind functions and getting yourself in a proper state, they are also universal truths. They are absolute core foundational application. Sometimes they're packaged in a way that I disagree with. The conclusion is brought to you through a path that I wouldn't have gone down. But the application is there, and it's real and it's true. If you're a speaker, if you're a coach, if you're a trainer, if you're a leader, even if you're not in the speaking, coaching, training business, but you're a leader, you influence other people. Do not influence them with manipulative lies. Don't try to pull on heartstrings with stories that are not yours. Be real. Now, it may be that you experienced a story through someone else's telling it, and it's still touching to you. It may mean that you've read the story or researched this story, not that you lived through it, but you have evidence to it. If that's how you learned about this story, that's still a powerful and effective way to do it. But don't just go to a book of stories or a book of anecdotes or a book of jokes. Pastors do it all the time. They lose authenticity. They lose members of their church when the stories they tell are not their own. I know that sounds like a powerful indictment. Just look at the history and ask yourself. You find people like Robert Morris very seldom sharing stories of other people unless they're direct quotes. Most of the stories that he tells are his own experiences, even down to nearly drowning his wife while scuba diving. But he's able to take that story and draw everyone into it in a way that they feel like he felt when that happened, even if they've never actually tried to drown their spouse. That's a master communicator. And pulling stories in like that resonate with the crowd because of the emotional resonance, not because the facts are the same that they are in your story, is master persuasion without manipulation. They are different. Probably one of the greatest communicators of all time was Jesus Christ. When he spoke to farmers, he spoke about things that had to do with dirt and seeds and plants and weeds and wheat and grain. When he spoke to lawyers, he spoke about the law. When he spoke to the religious leaders, he spoke about religion. When he spoke to families, he spoke about family, parents and children, loved ones, life and death, his father. That's master level communication. It's not manipulation. It's not faking it till you make it. It's finding the way that what you've lived through, what your experience, what your life has been like, and the lesson that you've learned, finding the way to draw that into a solution for someone else to overcome the pain that they're enduring in the moment. When you can do that, you will have great influence as a leader, as a business owner, as a parent, as a coach, as a trainer. Storytelling is important. Dramatizing someone else's story to try to make it more impactful, I believe, just my own personal opinion. I know there are people making millions of dollars at it, and I'm not making millions of dollars. But in my opinion, it's a dangerous pursuit to manipulate people through the dramatic telling of someone else's story rather than sharing your own and sharing a valuable solution that you learned in your own process. It's just my 2 cents. Take it for what you will, and apply it where it fits in your life. I think if you ask yourself, though, would I rather have an authentic story with a real solution from someone who's been there, or would I rather have a dramatized version of someone else's story that's been able to sell and manipulate millions of dollars? If it's all about the money for you, I think you know your answer. If it's about being real and transforming lives, I still think you know your answer. I hope this message has been valuable for you today. I hope it has challenged you as well to ask yourself that question. Am I faking it until I make it? Or am I being real about who I am and transforming lives on my journey? I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. For those of you that are still hanging out, make sure you crush that subscribe button there on Facebook or YouTube, whichever one you prefer to watch on. If you would like to have these messages on the go, there's 2 ways to get that. Number 1 would be to go to the iTunes. If you go to YouTube, the link is actually in there. If you go to the website, jlorennorris.com, the iTunes subscription button is right there on the top. You just tap on that, or the Excellent Life Leadership blog. Tap on that subscription button, and iTunes will open up. And these daily videos are loaded within 24 hours. They're in the podcast, so you can listen to them at any time, take them on the go, have them on your phone, download, whatever. The second would be, again, if you go to Excellent Life Leadership, go to the blog. On that blog page, you'll actually find a place to subscribe. You just sign in your name and email, and you will start to get these things in an email inbox. If you're interested in having me come to speak, you can go to jlorennorris.com. That's my speaker's profile page, and it has a little bit about the school program that we're developing right now. Love to have your participation in that, either as a sponsor or as a school where we would come in and provide the material. Let me know if I can help you at jlorennorris.com or excellentlifeleadership.com. Have a blessed day. I appreciate you being here.